Do you think the business school has enough minority faculty professors?
Honestly, no, I don't think there is enough minority faculty professors.
What do you think is the importance of having minority faculty members?
I think it's important in order for like students who are from minority backgrounds to feel a little bit more comfortable within the major because the business school already is like super competitive and it's not as diverse as it could be. So I feel like having minority professors can help like students feel more comfortable within their major.
How important do you think it is to have minority professors in a role model position for minority students?
I think it's super important. So just this past weekend was Technica. It's like the all-women's hackathon at Maryland. So that while it's not minorities in terms of race, it's in terms of gender, but just that example is what I can give personally, in which having female role models there had a huge impact on the attendees of the event. So on a similar vein, I really think I have a lot of friends. So I'm also part of a business organization called Startup Shell, which is a student-run incubator on campus. And a lot of people say that, when we do outreach, we really try to have make sure that people of all kind of backgrounds are represented in all of our events, when we're kind of having panels, kind of talk about Shell, and that we've had feedback sessions afterwards, and all these students who joined Shell who are from minority backgrounds have said that having that kind of leaders or people who look like them there has made them feel very welcome in the space. So especially in new areas, I've heard countless times in every organization that it really does help. And then in the lines of professors, I think it's a very similar vein, right? So you're coming into a new school, especially maybe you're a freshman, business school, right? And you may not feel welcome at first because it's a huge new environment, et cetera, but you see that familiar face and that they're in a leadership position too. That makes you feel like you yourself can actually rise the ranks and become a leader as well. So that works on an organization level, but I think even more profoundly at a professor level. And especially in the business world, it's necessary.
And one more question, how can we encourage a generational continuity and encourage minority students to take the roles that their minority role model professors took, encourage them to get doctorates and PhDs?
So I think it comes down to outreach from the top down. So if you're a minority leader in business, for example, right? I think it is a big part of it would be a lot of these organizations on campus that are for minority students. To get closer with minority leaders and kind of have that kind of go from the top down where they can kind of coach them and mentorship. Mentorship is I think the key to kind of growing that number in the future.
Do you think there's a fair minority representation for CPAs and accounting majors?
Definitely not. I think that the numbers are there, but compared to everyone else, they're significantly lower. And actually, in my ethics class, kind of based on the research I did, it was saying how there are a lack of CPAs amongst minorities because people are fearful or there aren't really any CPA role models, and I definitely agree with that 100%. A lot of minority groups do have their own businesses and do get certifications to become accredited for their business, but they don't necessarily get that CPA certification to take them to the next level. So I do think there are a number of small accounting firms throughout the area, but as far as that CPA level that's competitive with these big four firms or these regional or mid-sized, whatever you want to call them, type of firms, I think there is a big gap there. Specifically in the business school, there is a very, very small number. I can't give exact data, but just walking through class and being in the classroom, there's definitely a lack of numbers. So to answer your question overall, it would be no.
And do you think there's a perceived lack of opportunity or ability to progress to higher management positions for minorities?
I don't think it's necessarily a lack of opportunity, but I think, again, that fear state, you don't see someone that you can relate to in that position, so you may be hesitant to pursue that. A lot of minorities, like I said before, with kind of that business mindset, I don't want to stereotype, but I want to say like we're really big entrepreneurs. So if we do see us like being a partner or being a stakeholder, we end up just branching off and do something on our own as opposed to like staying within that big company. So I don't think it's more of the opportunity side, but either we have different intentions or we're fearful because we don't see like someone similar that we can kind of see as a role model.
As a member of NABA, what is your mission and objective?
So NABA, our motto is lifting as we climb. So kind of going off of that principle, we like to, as minorities, as we progress in our businesses and our career goals, we'd like to look behind us and try to bring up people whose shoes we were once in before and trying to pull them along in our careers, our companies, to try to get them opportunities that they may not have, maybe not have elsewhere. Also, as we are minorities ourselves, they can see themselves in the company, so we can tell them how daily life is in the company, how to kind of operate in a corporate world where they may not see themselves as.
And outside of being a role model, what are some of the other ways they empower students to, translate college to the professional world and make a name for themselves?
I'm sure. So we also offer different conferences, different presentations, different companies come. So just this past October, we had the National Southern Region Conference, where we have different professionals from different companies and past NABA members come to speak to different current NABA members in the undergraduate and graduate level, bringing in those people to not only help kind of do resume reviews, but just give you overall guidance as to what your career should be, how you should go about it, and the steps you need to take in order to achieve the goals that you try to set out for yourself.
Good. So as a previous accounting major, how do you feel about the minority representation in accounting majors?
So basically, when I went into the classes, I didn't really have any expectations thinking about that topic. There were more than I was expecting, I suppose, given my base level of zero expectation, but not as much as I would have liked to seen. But still, it was a pleasant surprise to see who was there.
And how do you think that can be improved, the minority representation as accounting majors?
Simple education. I mean, the only reason I knew about accounting as a major was because my mother was a CPA. I think a lot of people from different backgrounds might not have the same opportunities that I had. Just let people know, hey, this is an option.
So how do you feel about the importance of minority role models for aspiring minority business students?
The truth is, for the particular field of accounting, we actually have a decent number, if you look at it from a national number, of African American Latino professionals going into the accounting field. And with the NABA organization, it's a fantastic organization to pipeline college students into the field. And actually, that's a perfect example of an organization that actually has role models built into the conference itself. So it actually exists. And yes, it's very important for minority, underrepresented professionals to see others in partnerships, in senior level positions, so they actually can see that it is possible. And so I think it's really important.
And so right now on NABA's website, it says less than 9% of African Americans are in accounting positions. Do you think that needs to be improved, or how could that be improved?
So let's just think about it from this standpoint. If you look at top business schools from across the country, we're talking about less than 10 or 11% enrolled in business, period. So think about that. It's not to say that that number, that percentage is strong, but it is a strong percentage given the percentage of pipelining African American and Latino students into top business schools. So until we solve increasing diversity of underrepresented students to enroll in undergraduate business schools like Smith, we're not going to solve pipelining them into any industry, accounting or what have you. And so we have to work backwards. And just FYI, that's my role. How can we increase more of diversity into Smith so that you actually can have more talent moving into these fields of accounting and finance and so forth?
And how do you think, how important is it to have professionals come back to college level and even high school level and maybe instill financial literacy at the high school level?
Very, very important. Even behind me in this room, we have alumni coming back and talking to the undergraduate students. Not accounting, but accounting is through and through in this building. We have several diversity alums and corporate partners coming in and talking to our Smith Business Academy and our Women's Empowerment Institute. But it is very important to keep them coming back. But that's actually done a lot at the Smith School.
Okay. And what kind of Smith School activities involve going back to high school and going back to high schools, reaching out to secondary schools,
Yes.
and reaching out to younger individuals who are aspiring?
We actually do that and more. We have programs for high school rising sophomores, juniors, and seniors over the summer when you guys are out doing your internships, making money. We actually have students living right next door to us, taking classes here for 2 weeks with the goal of teaching them about business, but more specifically to encourage them to consider University of Maryland Smith Business School. And that's been around for about 5 years. But we also have case competitions for Prince George's County. We have Future Women in Business competitions. We have an array of diversity functions that exist. You just don't see a lot of it because it really isn't geared towards you, but we have a whole portfolio geared to high school students, particularly.
And do you think media could play a role in supporting minority students, or is the message getting across, and what mediums are the best way to get that message across?
Well, funny enough, I met with the marketing communications team this morning. Let me just say this, media for African American Latino students in particular, they need to see the face-to-face. Because if you think about if only a few diversity students attend a predominantly white school, and they put that one black person on the brochure. My son, when I saw him go through the marketing campaign when he was a high school senior, he's here now, a sophomore, but he would make these little snooty remarks about, sure, that one black person, and I don't even know if that black person is really there at the University of Maryland, so he would be snidey. So I think it's more important for to actually have the face-to-face contact so they can see the real connections. Media is good to get them into the door, but once they get in, they need to see the people that they saw in the video. That's really important.